Nation Speaks, your Baltimore Ravens podcast, where we talk about the best team in NFL history. If you're a Ravens fan, I am a huge Joe Flacco fan. Wise Usher once said, "Situations will arise in our lives." I'm talking about shut down. Like you're not throwing on Jimmy Smith. Joe is criminally underrated, lock him up in cuffs, criminally underrated. Lamar's put this team as a top 5 offense for the first time in 20 years. Got the arm talent. Jay Cutler had it too. I don't care about this argument against total TDs and all this. Oh, you want to talk about defense? Oh, until next time. All right, welcome into Flock Nation Speaks, your Baltimore Ravens podcast, where we talk about the best team in NFL history, even after week one. If you're a Ravens fan, of course. And it was a very exciting week because week one has come and gone. We saw some upsets, not only the Jets somehow coming away with a win against the Bills after Aaron Rodgers went down literally 4 plays into the game. And then we started the week with Detroit. The Detroit Lions with the upset over the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champions in the Kansas City Chiefs. But I know what y'all are here for. Y'all here for the Ravens because this is a Baltimore Ravens podcast. So let's get into it. The recap of the week one victory the Ravens had, a 25-9 victory over the Houston Texans. Crazy part about the Houston Texans, that young gun team they are, is I think they're going to get better as the year goes along, and I think the defense that they showed some promise. I was talking to a couple of friends of mine, and the thing about the Houston Texans is I think they're going to be young all year. I think they're going to play young. I think they're going to show that they are indeed young, but I think at the same time I think they're going to showcase that they have some promise and some very big potential. I think one of these other teams outside of Jacksonville comes out of that division because, number one, you don't win that division every single year. You can't win that division consistently because that's how competitive it ends up being. But also at the same time, we gotta remember that everybody's young in this division too, right? I mean, you got Trevor Lawrence, who's only in his 3rd year. You got a couple of rookie quarterbacks for the Colts and the Texans, and then you got the Titans situation that they got going on, which, albeit they got the most veteran-led team with not only Derrick Henry but also Ryan Tannehill as well. So that whole division is just very interesting. But let's talk about this Ravens game. Speaking of divisions, big AFC North matchup with the Ravens and the Bengals coming up this week. So that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be interesting to see which Bengals team comes out, because that was a little bit surprising, too, to see the Bengals get smacked like that by the Browns, and then especially after Joe Burrow got his big contract, his big payday and stuff like that. It's the NFL. You never know what you're going to get. But I think the elephant in the room, let's just be honest about things. For those of you who might be listening on Spotify, might be listening on Apple Podcasts, who might be listening on Google Podcasts, or et cetera, but any of your favorite podcasting platforms where you can find Flock Nation Speaks, I'll tell you this. The biggest thing, and I think the elephant in the room, is the injuries, right? Of course, losing J.K. Dobbins after it felt like he had a pretty strong start to his 2023 campaign, right? I think he had a pretty good start to his 2023 campaign. Losing him in this game, not only for the game, but also for the year with the torn Achilles. I mean, the Achilles injuries are just going around the league right now, unfortunately. So, especially in a contract year, man, it's so sad. It's heartbreaking for the guy. It's funny because, the funny part and interesting part about doing this video on Tuesday as opposed to Mondays, you get a chance to listen to what the Ravens flock is talking about and what they're saying. I saw a tweet out there that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Somebody has said they were upset that JK was upset for being out for the season. And they was like, because I think somebody said, I can't remember the quote exactly, but it was like, you're better when you're healthy or something like that, or something talking about his health or whatever. But at the end, duh, you're better when you're healthy, right? But the thing at the end of it was be accountable. They wanted J.K. Dobbins to be accountable for being injured. Here's the thing about injuries in any league, not even necessarily the NFL, right? Is that's not something you hold yourself accountable for. There's nothing you can do. Injuries are out of your realm of control. You can't control the fact that J.K. Dobbins can't control the fact that he's had an ACL surgery, had a surgery last year into that year. He was playing like the best running back on the field, and then towards Achilles this year. There's nothing J.K. Dobbins can do. There's no accountability you can give him and say, oh well, he's got to hold himself accountable. He's got to drink more milk or something. Like what? Like what are you gonna tell him? You're gonna tell him drink more milk or something, right? You're gonna tell him lay off the almond milk and go back to the cow's milk. Like what are you gonna tell him? What's holding him accountable? So I think that's a silly thing that was trying to push. It's kind of pushed out from the inside out with with the flock, and I just find it kind of crazy. I hope that there's a future in Baltimore for J.K. Dobbins because J.K. Dobbins is so freaking talented. I've said it since day one. I think him wearing 27 was symbolism of how good he really is. There has been no running back to wear 27 ever since Ray Rice, who was one of the best Ravens running backs in Ravens history. Of course, outside of Jamal Lewis as well. So, it's one of those, I think that's the biggest elephant in the room, missing J.K. Dobbins. What do you do? I personally think, this is me, you can lean on Gus Edwards now. I know for whatever reason they don't want to lean on Gus Edwards, so I could see them, probably possibly bringing back up Melvin Gordon, seeing what he's going to do, seeing what he has left in the tank. But also, I think the one guy who's forgotten about is Kareem Hunt, right? Kareem Hunt, who's had a couple of good years in Cleveland, of course, had some good years in Kansas City as well. For him, I think this could be a big signing. Like this could be one of those veteran signings that you grab that's completely different from the previous veteran signings that you get. I think Kareem Hunt, shout out to TCB Ravens Media, because I know they were the one that brought it up today, and I was like, I forgot about Kareem Hunt. I forgot Kareem Hunt wasn't even on the team. How is Kareem Hunt not on the team, number one? But also, this might, the Ravens might be the perfect landing spot for Kareem Hunt, a guy who's ready to go right now, who usually is pretty healthy, and a guy who can give you exactly what you need. He's going to give you the explosiveness, and then you can still let Gus do his thing. And then you don't have to put Melvin Gordon out there in a position where he don't really need to be in. You don't need to put him out there in that kind of Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell late in his career type of situation. Kareem Hunt, I think, will be a perfect solution for that. But we'll see. We'll see what the Ravens do, right? We'll see exactly what they do. They say, and they always say this, that they trust their guys, but we'll see exactly what they will do. But let's bring up the stats real quick and just take a look at what we saw in this game. The 25-9 victory for the Ravens over the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud finished 28 of 44, 242, no touchdowns, no picks. So shout out to him for playing a relatively clean game. It felt like at times they were able to move the ball on the defense a little bit. I think if we had an honest opinion about it, I mean, Nico Collins played well in this game. Robert Woods, both of them having 6 receptions apiece. Robert Woods played well. I mean, Robert Woods had some big first down catches, exactly what you needed when you needed them. Robert Woods was that guy. Tank Dell looked good for kind of what you expect him to be. And the interesting part about Tank Dell, it felt like Tank Dell might even play better than Noah Brown. And Noah Brown, I think, is technically supposed to be ahead on the depth chart comparatively to Tank Dell. So it'll be interesting. I think they'll have a pretty good little young receiver room with guys who can make some plays. So that'll definitely be interesting as well. Dameon Pierce played okay, 11 carries for 38 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. CJ Stroud averaged 5 yards a carry with 4 carries for 20 yards. That's about the only 2 guys who really made a true impact in the run game. I think to start out, while we're talking about the Texans offense, let's talk about this Ravens defense and what they did. And I felt like for the Ravens, I felt like it felt like they were really getting after CJ Stroud a little bit. And the one thing about the Ravens has always been a big thing and a big topic of conversation is rookie quarterbacks do not want to go not only into Baltimore, but go into Baltimore playing against that type of defense and the way that the Ravens play. And I think the Ravens played well I really do. They weren't really turning the Texans over, but they got them off the field when it felt like they needed to. Now they had a couple of, let's be honest, they had a couple of drives that were kind of more advantageous to the Houston Texans and what they do and what they were trying to do and them trying to spread the ball around a little bit. But for the most part, considering you got a banged up secondary and, because Rocky Sin didn't really play. So you on your third string, fourth string, fifth string guys. You got guys you just brought off the street last week playing number one, number two corner. I feel like the Ravens did exactly what they needed to do. In this game, Brandon Stevens was all over the place. Roquan Smith was all over the place. Patrick Queen played well. I mean, I just think that I feel like honestly, it just felt like it was a really good defensive effort to hold this team to 9 points. I mean, of course, you'll face your better offenses. You'll face your more talented, more solidified offenses. I mean, speaking of, you'll face one in week 2 against Cincinnati on the road in a tough environment. A division rival. So we'll see exactly what that means. But considering the Bengals didn't really target T. Higgins. That's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day when we preview the show. But just it's interesting because and of course the other injury was Marcus Williams, right? Marcus Williams was a big injury, and he's going to be gone for a while. I think is what they said, pretty much with the torn pec. So that safety depth is a true issue. I know the Ravens brought in somebody today. I'm trying to think of who it was. I'm trying to think of who it was because they did bring in somebody today for the to help out in the safety area. Deron Harmon, that's who it was, the former Raider. So I mean that'll be good because he's a veteran guy. He's been around. He's done some things. So he can be a stopgap for the time being. To see what they do. I felt like Jadeveon Clowney. I felt like he looked good. I liked how he was kind of all over the place. So Jabo looked good to me. Even Owe, like I said, I think the bread and butter of this defense this year is going to be putting people exactly where they need to be. Making people kind of play these hybrid roles, but like actually having the guys who can actually play the hybrid roles, right? It's less about Patrick Ricard playing D tackle and more about let's see exactly what these guys do. Having these guys like Trenton Simpson, having these guys like Patrick Queen, right? Having these guys who can come out and play any position. They can rush the pass, or they can blitz, they can drop in coverage. I think the Ravens are going to lean into that more because the Ravens have always been a team that they like these pet projects, they like these science projects, they like to put the beaker, they like to pour from the beaker into the test tube and see what's going to explode off of it. So I think defensively, I think we'll see more and more of that this season. So it'll be definitely interesting to see what exactly they do. But then let's talk about the offense. Lamar Jackson, not his best game, but he hasn't played in 10 months. So what can you say? 17 of 22, 169, no TDs, one pick. Zay Flowers got in on the action with 9 receptions for 78 yards. Odell got in on the action with 2 receptions for 37 yards, 2 big receptions. Bateman got in at 2 with the 3 receptions for 35 yards. And even JK got in with a couple of catches too. I know Kohler had a drop early as well. So I mean, the depth at receiver and tight end was definitely on display. Right, the depth at receiver and tight end was on display. It was. I think Zay Flowers is as advertised. He's going to be a guy who's going to make guys miss. He's going to be a guy who's going to be a danger for time, for time to come. I feel like there was part of me that felt like it was kind of they were forcing the ball to him a little bit. But at the same time, I still think you want to get the ball into your playmakers' hands. So I don't necessarily blame Todd Monken for trying to get the ball to Zay Flowers and another one of those weird, speaking of Todd Monken, that kind of those Greg Roman like calls was Todd Monken ran back-to-back wide receiver screens to Zay Flowers on the same side of the field. Like it was very Greg Roman-esque. He ran back-to-back wide receiver screens on the same side of the field to the same player, and it didn't work. And I get that they want to get Zay Flowers involved, but there's a reason why you got all this other talent out here too. But I think it'll get better. It'll get better with age, because it reminded me of playing Madden where you see an opening on the defense and you're like, oh, let me hurry up back up to the line. Let me run that play again and try it again. It's never as successful, most of the time, right immediately after as you think it's going to be. But, you still gonna try it because you saw that hole and you were like, I gotta go exploit. That deficiency that I saw. I think the offense will get better. I think this is an offense. Considering the Ravens still scored 25 points, and this is an offense that hasn't played together yet. We talked about it before. Like, more than likely, unfortunately, we may not ever get to see the combination of Lamar Jackson with Rashad Bateman, with Mark Andrews, with J.K. Dobbins on the same field. But, hopefully at least you'll have most of those guys. And I think this offense is going to get better week to week. I think we gotta be patient as Ravens fans. Lamar Jackson should not have command of this offense yet because he didn't play the whole preseason, and he hasn't played in a very long time, and it's a new system. So that's going to take time too. Because that was another thing I heard from the Ravens flock is like, hey, Lamar Jackson looked like he had command of the offense. Why should he? Right? Why should he? Why should he have command of the offense? I don't think he should have command of the offense just yet. Give it another week or two because you never know. Like, narratives change from week to week. But I think for me, I was a little more optimistic, I think, after this game than everybody else. I took it as, hey, this is week one. These guys haven't played together in a real football game in ever, right? This is the first time this group of guys has got a chance to play together, considering the new offense. You got to learn a new scheme. You got new faces in different places. And, that's a big thing. So I think this offense will get better as it goes along. I think so will this defense as they get healthier. As some of these new pieces get filtered into with of course the injuries too, and as Marlon comes back and stuff like that, I think the defense will continue to excel because I think the linebackers got it covered, and I think the defensive line is playing well too. I think it's just going to be the back end guys because of so many new faces, of so many different pieces in those spots. We'll see. We'll definitely see what happens. Of course, the Ravens got the Cincinnati Bengals coming up in week 2. I'll have a preview for that later on in the week. Very exciting because the Bengals they like to talk. Even though they got smacked 24-3 in the week 1 game, it ain't gonna matter. They're gonna talk anyway because they're the Bengals. But we'll see what happens, especially with this secondary matching up against those weapons. It'll definitely be interesting to see what exactly they do, and also too like to see what Joe Mixon does against this front seven too. Like can they stop Joe Mixon, or is it going to be tough sledding? It'll be interesting to see. But I'll definitely be back to break that one down for you guys. But I'm gonna hop off here for now. Be sure to hit that subscribe button below if you are on YouTube. If you're on any of the podcasting platforms you might be listening, be sure to favorite the podcast, add it to your queue, whatever you got to do. We'll see you guys on the next episode of Flock Nation Speaks. Until next time.